What would you do if your worst enemy was the only one who could save your child? On the African savannah, a moment unfolded that defied every known law of nature and survival. A deer saved a drowning lion cub, and what the lions did next left everyone speechless. Dark clouds swallowed the sky whole, turning the bright African afternoon into a suffocating gray twilight. Rain did not fall gently that day. It crashed down in violent sheets, hammering the earth. The river swelled rapidly, its current strong enough to shatter rocks and uproot ancient trees nearby. A lion pride rested near the riverbank, their young cubs playing carelessly at the water's edge. No one noticed the danger creeping closer, the water rising faster than anyone could have predicted. In one terrifying instant, a sudden torrent surged forward and swept a small lion cub away. The cub vanished into the churning brown water before its mother could even reach out to grab it. The pride erupted in desperate roars that echoed across the savannah, raw with pain and fear. But roaring could not stop the flood. Their powerful bodies were completely useless against the raging current. The tiny cub spun helplessly in the water, its small body tossed around like a broken leaf. It tried desperately to grab the rocks along the bank, but the current ripped it away. Again and again, its small paws reached out, only to be torn from every solid surface. By sheer luck, the cub got wedged tightly between two large boulders in the rushing river. It clung to the cold stone with every ounce of remaining strength in its trembling little body. Its tiny paws were bleeding from the rough rocks, the delicate skin scraped raw and torn. The cub shivered violently from cold and terror, its whimpers barely audible above the roaring water. All it could do was hold on and hope that someone or something would come to help. The lion pride gathered at the bank, pacing back and forth, their eyes locked on the water. Every lion knew the terrible truth. If help did not arrive soon, the cub would die. Meanwhile, a few hundred meters away, a young deer wandered quietly through the dense African forest. Deer are born prey animals, always alert, always listening, always ready to flee from any danger. The vibration of the approaching flood traveled through the ground and reached the deer's sensitive hooves. Something was terribly wrong. The deer could feel it in every nerve of its cautious body. Following the strange vibrations and the distant roar of water, it moved carefully toward the river. As it neared the bank, a sound stopped it cold. Not a roar, but a whimper. It was the heartbreaking cry of a young creature in pain, desperate and fading away fast. The deer crept closer and saw a scene that defied everything it knew about the world. The entire lion pride stood frozen on the bank, their fierce eyes filled with helpless anguish. In the raging water below, a tiny lion cub clung to the rocks and was barely alive. The deer's first instinct was pure terror. Lions were its deadliest natural enemies on the savannah. One adult lion could end its life in mere seconds, and an entire pride meant certain death. But these lions showed no trace of their usual hunting ferocity or predatory aggression right now. Their eyes held only raw pain and helplessness, like parents watching their child slip away forever. The deer looked at the drowning cub and saw something deeply familiar, a young life fading, a life that deserved a fair chance to survive, not to be swallowed by merciless floodwater. In that single moment, something shifted deep inside the deer, overriding every survival instinct it possessed. It made a decision that would change everything, to save the lion cub, no matter the cost. The deer suppressed its fear, gathered all its courage, and took its first trembling step forward. Each step carried the weight of a choice between self-preservation and compassion for another fragile life. When the lion pride noticed the deer approaching, their eyes widened with shock and utter confusion. Some lions stepped forward instinctively, with claws raised slightly, assuming a defensive posture out of pure habit. But they stopped abruptly. There was no malice in the deer's eyes, only firm, gentle kindness. The lions understood instantly. This deer had not come to threaten them, but to save their cub. The deer waded slowly into the freezing water, and the violent current slammed hard against its legs. Its small body did not fight the water directly, but adjusted flexibly along the current's powerful direction. Cold river water splashed into its face and choked it, but the deer pressed forward without stopping. Its hooves slipped repeatedly on the smooth underwater rocks, making every single step a painful battle. The entire lion pride held their breath, watching the brave deer struggle through the deadly rushing water. Several lions scratched the soil nervously with their front paws, letting out sounds between growls and prayers. The ferocity in their eyes faded completely, replaced by something rare and precious: hope and silent gratitude. Finally, after an agonizing struggle through the rapids, the deer reached the trapped and trembling lion cub. Without hesitation, the deer dove deeper into the water and stretched its hooves gently toward the cub. The lion cub, grasping its very last chance at life, clung desperately onto the deer's back. Its sharp little claws dug deep into the deer's flesh, not from cruelty but from pure survival instinct. The claws left bleeding marks across the deer's back, but the deer did not flinch even once. Only one thought filled the deer's mind: get this cub safely to the bank, no matter what. Now came the hardest test: swimming back against the violent current while carrying the heavy cub. Every inch forward demanded enormous effort. The current fought back harder with each desperate step taken. For one terrifying moment, the deer's vision went black, and the current nearly swept them both away. It seemed like both of them would drown together, swallowed by the merciless river in one cruel instant. But deep inside, a stubborn flame of faith refused to die. The deer gritted its teeth and pushed on. With its very last ounce of strength, the deer dragged itself and the cub onto the muddy bank. Then it collapsed completely, utterly exhausted, having pulled the lion cub back from the edge of death. The lion cub rolled off and coughed up several mouthfuls of murky river water, but it was alive. The deer lay motionless on the ground, gasping for air, too exhausted to even lift its own head. Blood still seeped from the claw wounds on its back, and its whole body trembled from the ordeal. When it finally gathered enough strength to raise its head, it saw something it would never forget. The entire lion pride stood just a few steps away, completely still, watching the deer in absolute silence. Their fierce eyes held no trace of their usual predatory nature, only gentle, calm, and deep gratitude. Time seemed to freeze on the African savanna, with only the river's sound and the cub's steady breathing. Then one lion stepped forward slowly, its massive paws making no sound on the soft, wet earth. Instead of attacking, it lowered its great head and gently nuzzled the deer's forehead with its warm nose. Then it carefully nuzzled the deer's bleeding back, so gently, as if terrified of causing any more pain. The deer's tense body slowly relaxed, and it tilted its head to gently rub against the lion's nose. Predator and prey, ancient enemies since the dawn of time, sharing a moment of pure, silent understanding. The deer's kindness had been understood, and a warmth beyond nature's rules quietly healed the land that day. But as the deer rose and walked away into the fading golden light, one question lingered in the air. Would the lions remember this act of mercy the next time hunger drove them to hunt across the savanna? Love breaks all rules. Follow for more wild, heartfelt moments.